Hey everyone, thanks for clicking on this video. Today we're going to talk about Ben Shapiro and his recent reveal of what his Myers-Briggs type is. Love him or hate him, you can't deny that Ben Shapiro is an interesting person, and his recent video of him taking the 16personalities.com test has drawn a lot of attention. When I watched Ben Shapiro's video of him taking the test, and by watch I mean I skipped to the end to see what his results were, I did not agree with them at all. I see some traits of the INTJ in him, it's not too far off, but I don't agree with it. And then someone sent me Frank James' reaction video. Now I haven't seen it yet, but I do know what he thinks Ben Shapiro is, and I don't agree with that either. But I'm willing to hear Frank's argument, so I thought today, why don't we react to his video? Before we react to Frank James' video, you need to know that I'm an ENTP, which makes me an expert on commenting on Frank's video. I have my own opinion of what type I think Ben Shapiro is, but I'll wait till later in the video to share that. All right, let's see what he has to say.
What's up, everybody? Today's video is a bit different than ones I've done in the past because my buddy JJ, who made this awesome piece of artwork, he told me, dude, Ben Shapiro, noted conservative commentator Ben Shapiro, is going to be releasing a video where he takes the 16personalities.com test. Just my opinion, but it seems pretty obvious that he is an ENTP. What do
Okay, well, I think that's funny. I don't agree. I understand why someone might think that, but I don't agree, and I'll tell you why later in the video.
What do ENTPs stereotypically like to do? Debate. What does Ben Shapiro like to do? Debate. And I knew he wasn't going to get that. And I was right.
Okay, let's see, guys.
Okay, you're not wrong. Yes, ENTPs love to debate, but they aren't the only type that loves to debate. Let's just get that straight.
Architect, INTJ. Wow. Okay, everybody in the room is like, called it.
So you can watch his video.
Yeah, I will say I completely agree with Frank here. I don't think he's an INTJ at all.
The link is down below where you can go to infj.me/Ben. I'm not only going to talk about briefly why I think he's ENTP and not INTJ, but also I'm going to discuss a few of the issues with the 16personalities.com test that led to this.
See, I also hate that test. I think it's not accurate. I think it's a terrible test. I don't recommend anyone takes it. Okay, then he does an Audible ad, so we'll just skip through that.
Audiobook. Whoa. Okay, now that you've signed up for your free trial of Audible, the first thing we got to talk about is 16personalities.com. The Myers-Briggs test that everyone seems to take, it pops up at the top of Google, is not actually a Myers-Briggs test. It is a Big Five test. Big Five, of course, is the scientific, I don't know why I put it in quotes, it is scientific, the scientific personality scale, which is often remembered by the acronym OCEAN. Openness to experience, conscientiousness,
I didn't know this.
agreeableness, and neuroticism. So the 16personalities.com takes the Big Five scale and masquerades as a MBTI test. It's going to lead to stuff like Ben Shapiro getting tested in INTJ, which is not. All right.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that about it. I've always hated that test, but I didn't know that history. That's interesting.
First up, the introvert-extrovert dichotomy, which is the most similar to Myers-Briggs when it comes to the Big Five. But if you look at that test, a lot of the questions that Ben was answering like an introvert had to do with people.
I enjoy vibrant social events with a lot of people. No, after a long and exhausting week, a fun party is just what you need. Strongly disagree.
Because a lot of people, even if they are extroverts, E-types in Myers-Briggs, are still going to get worn out by people.
Yeah, okay, this is a really good point he's making, because this is very true. The way I view introvert and extrovert is it's a scale. It's not a black and white. It's not a switch. And so for me, yes, I draw energy from being around people. Yes, I love attention. But on the scale of introvert to extrovert, I am at the very bottom of the extrovert. I'm a very introverted extrovert. So yeah, people, they get too one-sided with the introvert-extrovert thing.
One of the funny things is you'll get people who are like ENFJs, people who are big extroverts in Myers-Briggs who are like, I'm really drained by people because I'm always going around talking to them all the time. My social calendar is full. I must be an introvert.
It's so funny that he says that because I know several ENFJs specifically that think they're introverts and they think they're INFJs, and I know for a fact that they're ENFJs because they're easy to spot. And so it's really funny that he would say that because that's a big one.
Burned out by people. Meanwhile, the real introverts are like, I had to talk to someone for like 5 minutes and now I'm burned
that's
out.
very accurate.
If Ben Shapiro is an ENTP, his extroverted dominant function is intuition, which is not so much focused on people anyway. That is more focused on ideas, things in the world. Now, people can be part of that, but extroverted intuitives are not primarily focused on socializing and people. The other thing, this is the thing that really kills me about the 16personalities.com test, is that they equate conscientiousness on the Big Five scale with the JP dichotomy at the end of the Myers-Briggs types, which of course causes a lot of problems because P types can be high in conscientiousness, and especially if you look at someone like Ben Shapiro, he's conservative. Statistically, conservatives tend to be higher in conscientiousness. Let me just quickly define what conscientiousness is. From Wikipedia, you know it's true because anyone can write it. Conscientiousness is a personality trait of being careful or diligent. Conscientiousness implies a desire to do a task well and to take obligations to others seriously. In order to be successful in a field, you have to...
I will say he's so good at explaining things. I would not phrase it this eloquently.
...be conscientious to a degree.
Your personal work style is closer to spontaneous bursts of energy than to organized and consistent efforts. I disagree on pretty organized in how it works. If you have temporarily put your plans on hold, you make sure...
Also, I'm noticing that Ben is like going all the way to disagree or all the way to agree. Never do that.
It's your top priority to get back on track as soon as possible. Strongly agree. You often make decisions on a whim. Disagree. When starting to work on a project, you prefer to make as many decisions up front as possible.
Yeah, this is why I hate that test. It's so vague. Ugh, I hate it.
Strongly agree. You still honor the commitments you made even if you have a change of heart. Super agree.
Like the stereotype of an extroverted intuitive like an ENTP is that they're kind of all over the place. They don't follow through with stuff. They don't plan anything. But look at it this way. He runs a business. He has to have a plan. He wants to get things done. He has to be conscientious. I think we really need to decouple this association we have with J and P and conscientiousness because it really throws a lot of people off.
Thank you for saying that because, again, it's too extreme. Everything is a scale, and it also, you have to factor in emotional maturity in general. Like, yes, in general, I'm disorganized, I'm spontaneous, I'm not super structured. But when it comes to work, I'm not like that at all. I'm super organized, super structured. Deadlines are fine.
Now, if we just look at some differences generally between ENTPs and INTJs, I think we can start to illustrate why Ben Shapiro is not INTJ, but is more likely ENTP. ENTPs love new things. Extroverted intuitives love new things. And while Ben, in that quiz, answered as though he doesn't like new things,
You have a careful and methodical approach to life. Yes, I'll agree.
Ben loves seeking out these new discussions and new
Yeah, I don't agree with Ben. He doesn't play anything safe. He's extremely bold.
opportunities to engage with people in a debate. He likes having things thrown at him, having arguments thrown at him. So it's more of an abstract, intuitive kind of gathering. INTJs are less naturally looking for an argument unless it happens to fall into their more narrow wheelhouse.
Yeah, I agree with Frank here. One of my sisters is an INTJ, and she doesn't actively seek out arguments. If she's in one, she can hold her own, but she doesn't seek them out like an ENTP and INTP definitely do.
Politics is not narrow. He talks about like all kinds of different stuff. You're able to throw almost any kind of vaguely related political, cultural question at him and he'll come up with an argument. And that's what he likes. That's what he thrives on. An INTJ, though, it seems to me, is less likely to want to build their brand around that sort of thing. And this is because INTJs, with extroverted thinking, when they have a debate, an argument, when they're working through some kind of logical thing, it's oftentimes for an end. It's a lot more practical. It's like, let's come to reality. But for the ENTPs with introverted thinking, coming up with a practical solution is of much lower importance than coming up with an argument with something that is logical and entirely coherent to them, which then leads them to take pleasure in having debates for the sake of having debates.
Okay, so now I'm gonna get into what I think Ben Shapiro is, because I do agree with what Frank is saying, but I don't think Ben Shapiro is an ENTP. I think he's an INTP, and here's why. Like I said, I've been really close with multiple INTPs, and yes, in general, I'm more prone to outwardly argue with someone because I am extroverted and it's easier for me to talk to someone face to face. But if an INTP is comfortable enough with someone or passionate about a topic, they will argue like their life depends on it. The main difference between the ways ENTPs and INTPs argue is that when an INTP argues, they are arguing to crush you. They're arguing to prove that person wrong and to prove themselves right. Now, sometimes ENTPs argue for the same reason, but the vast majority of the time, 99% of the time, we're just arguing for fun. ENTPs and INTPs possess this quality to be able to play devil's advocate and to be able to think quickly with a sparring conversation. I'm curious to know how many INTPs or ENTPs Frank knows in real life, because if you've ever seen an INTP argue, you would not question that that is what Ben Shapiro is. And while Ben Shapiro does add humor into his arguments, an ENTP does it way more. You'll rarely see an ENTP getting angry in an argument. Usually we're smiling the entire time. Whereas ENTPs almost always come across as angry and very aggressive. Okay, my camera keeps dying, so we gotta speed this up.
It's also arguable that Ben Shapiro is INTP, but I think that ENTP makes a lot more sense because he is easily able to understand other people's arguments in order to pull them apart, which is why ENTPs are the stereotypical debate team gurus of MBTI, and not so much the INTPs, because INTPs aren't as good at getting at understanding the other person's argument. They can do it, but it's not something they can do easily in the moment.
Okay, well, at least he says that it's possible. He's not wrong. That is true. But here's the thing. When it comes to INTPs, if you know one in real life, when they have studied a subject and they know that they know what they're talking about, they are emboldened and their mind suddenly works so much faster. So in the end, my entire argument is based off of personal experience with the INTPs I know versus the ENTPs I know, and me being an ENTP myself. I agree with almost everything Frank said, and his points make sense. But when you apply it into real world ENTPs versus INTPs, it just makes way more sense for him to be an INTP. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just the INTPs I know. I'm curious as to what you guys think. Please share your opinion. Let's start a discussion or even an argument. If you watched this entire video, I really appreciate it. Please subscribe if you want to see more.